So when you have them do the email memo, that's after they do a full-blown?
In my advanced course?
In your advanced class, I'm talking.
So it was at the way that we structured it was, instead of having, one big memo, we had a variety of smaller assignments. And then they did do a position statement to the EEOC at the end, which would be kind of like the persuasive brief that you would maybe use. So this was at the beginning. They had they'd gotten a little bit of information, like the like the vignette, about what this person was complaining about. The manager had come to them and said, I think we've got something brewing here. So they knew the basics, and they had done a little bit of research, and they had written something very brief, which I told them was going to be handed in, and then I used that for an editing class. I handed it back to them and said, you actually have another couple of days until this is due, and then we edited it. So they had some familiarity with the material.
So it wasn't research from ground zero?
No, so they knew, but they hadn't done research on the specific question that I asked in each of the emails. So it was relevant to the problem, but we hadn't quite gotten there yet because they didn't have all the facts.
Do you think it would work to have them do that after they've done a full-blown memo on it?
Mm-hmm. I really do, because I think one of the things I really wanted them to be able to do was this idea of synthesizing all of this stuff into, well, what really matters? So I think actually I may do it that way this year. I may have them write this sort of research memo, do all the research, so they've done all of it, and then say, okay, now give me basically the brief answer. Boil it down. I'm definitely going to use that. Like, I'm going to see the client tomorrow. He's coming in and he is upset.
I am going out.
But I think actually that would probably be more effective.
One last question, then I'll stop. You have them do oral. I love that. Like, explain it orally. I'm going to try to do that in my advanced class. Is it bad if they see the other kids doing it?
So my theory is that because they saw that that's how the first few people answer the question, that maybe they changed.
So you don't do feedback after each person?
No, I had them. So each of them I said, and I'd like you to tell me a little bit about X case. That's how I differentiated between each of them. And they were kind of the main cases that I thought were going to be relevant.
Right.
So it was a way for them to get into the heart of the material, and what I had hoped was that we would then have a class about substantive issues that were brought up by the law in these cases, and instead it was like a recitation of the facts of each case. So I'm thinking I'll probably change it this year. I may do a sample presentation to them, but the purpose of it was that in the real world, this is what you would do.
Right.
You'd get and I'm going to change. The partner's going to be sitting in the chair, and the associate's coming into them.
I was thinking about that as I was
because
that's what would happen.
I actually think that that's an important point to make, because I think that one of the big problems is that you're afraid to ask questions of this on-high person who's, you feel stupid if you ask more questions about the assignment. So I think that actually this year I'll do 2 oral components. One will be that they have to ask me questions about the assignment, and then the next will be that they'll present, and I'm going to ask them to write up their presentation so that they won't be the same before, and hand that in beforehand, so that it will be a little bit more structured, and hopefully we'll get better result from the oral presentation.
Very, very good idea.
Thanks.
I like the email idea too, and I actually had a couple of logistical questions for Sarah. Did you say, I don't know if I understood you correctly, but when you send out the assignment email,